Good morning. Bill Matsukutis, Corporation Counsel, City of Jersey City, here with Brad to assist him in his research for New Jersey City University on chromium. Well, coal is a little different than chromium. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on coal plants. There is a coal power plant in Jersey City, owned by PSE&G, as far as I understand. From my layman's perspective, and from what I do comprehend, and as a self-proclaimed environmentalist, I'm not a big fan of coal power plants. Clearly they are known to emit a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, known to cause global warming. Having said that, yes, we are a industrial state, but I think any highly populated, densely populated area like New Jersey, anywhere on the globe, requires power in the modern day. We all like to have light when we turn a switch on, and we talk about alternative energy, but it doesn't seem that humankind has been able to come up with a reliable, sustainable source to provide abundant energy outside of those sources that unfortunately contribute to global warming, whether it be coal or oil. And even if we look at now natural gas that New York City is looking to utilize to provide power for them, that is also controversial because of the methodology that's utilized to extract it from the earth with fracking, or even the utilization of the pipelines to transport it. Here in Jersey City, we've been very offended by the prospect of a pipeline going through Jersey City because it will create the prospect of an explosion, which obviously we don't like, but also because it could hamper economic development by causing no development zones on either side of the pipe. So having said all that, and then of course there's nuclear, which has less emissions but creates a lot of waste, and a conundrum and a problem for people what to do with the waste, but also the danger that we saw what happened in Japan, which is the meltdown. So I would prefer not to see any more coal plants built, and hopefully the one here get phased out, even though PSE&G asserts that it's a clean one. The reason behind working with the companies to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to make them clean up the contamination that they're responsible for. It's that simple. What I suppose you mean by working with them, you mean entering into an agreement with them, a settlement. And we initiated litigation against, we had two factories essentially that created various products that utilized chromite ore and created the chromium ore processing residue. Going back, like you quoted me there, decades, even and when I say decades, they knew about the harmful consequences of it for decades. When it was being utilized to produce various products, I'm not sure how much they knew about the harmful consequences then, although there is evidence that this company, Mutual Chemical, which was the company that had a plant on Route 440, knew about the harmful consequences of chromium, and there's correspondence between doctors and scientists around the world with regards to the potentially harmful impact of chromium. But the reason why we worked with them was because anytime you enter into a settlement of litigation, you're weighing various factors, litigation risk versus the benefit of the settlement. And in this particular circumstance, I was extremely happy that the companies would agree to clean up the chromium in a time frame pursuant to the highest standards in the world, and with the court overseeing them. And that's specifically what we've been able to achieve. For example, with PPG. PPG is cleaning up the location of their former chromate plant on Garfield Avenue. They're cleaning it up pursuant to standards that were established by Lisa Jackson, who was the DEP commissioner at the time, who Barack Obama made the EPA administrator. and they're doing it pursuant to a schedule that is in a court order that we got PPG to sign. That not only are we signatories to it, but also the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, and it's being overseen by a state Superior Court judge here in Jersey City. And we regularly go to see the judge, and the judge makes sure that PPG is following the order. So that's the reason why. We got them to agree to clean it up. So back to coal. Again, I'm not an expert on coal. I don't know the answer to that question. Having said that, I do believe that a disproportionate amount of minorities, or a disproportionate amount of people who live next to areas that are environmentally contaminated are minorities, and some of that has to do with the fact that the urban areas of America, the Northeast in particular, and the Midwest, have become higher percentage minorities, and those were the areas where you had clusters of industrial activity, and those are the areas where you have either contamination or coal plants, for example. But having said that, I am not familiar with statistics or anything else in that regard. So. I'm not so sure that's the case, for one. Yeah, and when you say New Jersey state officials, I don't know if you mean elected officials or members of the bureaucracy, because the governors change, right? But maybe the head of the Department of Environmental Protection changes. But the overwhelming majority of people who work in that department are career employees who went to school to learn environmental sciences, whether they're an engineer or a toxicologist. They're various disciplines, policymakers, and a lot of them go into public service with the goal of trying to clean up contaminated sites. And I think most of them there are underrated, that they're dedicated public servants. They have a very difficult job. New Jersey, as I think we pointed out before, is an industrial center and has been for many years. And as a consequence of that, you've had 20,000 contaminated sites in New Jersey. So you had a DEP that was overwhelmed with so many sites to try to oversee the cleanup, and underfunded and understaffed. Having said that, do I think that more could be done to clean up sites? I do. I think we've made some steps in the right direction. I'm not so sure the current governor is focusing on that in the right way, but a lot of it is that who pays for the cleanup, and the more aggressive you can get to get a company that has the wherewithal, like Honeywell or PPG, to clean it up, which we were able to do here in Jersey City with the assistance of the state in that regard back during the previous administration with the Attorney General's help, is a good thing. Extending periods of the cleanup?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of. And Al Harvey-Smith had nothing to do with the chromium remediation efforts.
If the
It depends. No, not necessarily. The entity that created the pollution should be the party responsible for the cleanup underneath the Spill Act. Sometimes a municipality can be held liable simply by ownership of property that is contaminated. But underneath the Spill Act, if the municipality has acquired the land through a tax foreclosure, then the municipality is not held responsible. But we've had examples here, situations where we've acquired property and we made the either previous owner or the company that actually engaged in the contamination clean it up. When you say the chromium-6 plant, there's two.
Okay.
So maybe you're referring to Garfield Avenue.
Yeah.
Well, you should take this newsletter when you leave. It was issued by the Chromium Cleanup Partnership, which is a combination of the Department of Environmental Protection, Jersey City, PPG, and the court-appointed site administrator, Mike McCabe. And I could read you the headline, which says that Garfield Avenue site reaches 10% of the cleanup. 25% is to be excavated by next summer, and the 2014 total cleanup is on track.